Welcome to Fusion Tonight. This week, we jump right into the interview, and we think you're going to like it because we're talking to the boss, the bishop of the Iowa Annual Conference, Laurie Holler. Now scream and yell and jump up and down for our host, Mr. John Cooper.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are here with Bishop Laurie Holler. I'm so excited that she agreed to be our guest on Fusion Tonight. She's probably the biggest guest we've had on the show, so I suppose we're moving in the right direction. So much is going on in the United Methodist Church. Bishop Laurie, thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Well, thank you, John. I'm delighted to be here with you, and it is indeed an interesting time in the United Methodist Church, and I am honored to be able to be in the role that I'm at right now in the Iowa Annual Conference as the Episcopal leader of this conference. And as you probably know, John, I'm also now serving as the Episcopal leader of the Dakotas Annual Conference of North and South Dakota. So needless to say, I am staying out of trouble. I don't have time to get into trouble, at least I hope.
Yes, I did hear that, and all I could think was, you're such a talented person. God has put you in all of these positions and given you so many gifts to be in a leadership role. Is there a reason God hasn't given you the ability to say no?
Well, John, that's one of the most the most difficult things for me to say is no, and that's been that way throughout my life. I feel and have felt since I was a kid that I was called to some kind of ministry, and the needs are so great, and my passion for ministry is so compelling that I really I just really feel honored to be able to be in the roles that I'm at. At the same time, there's always a danger of burnout, and I think right now for me in my roles in both Iowa and the Dakotas, I'm enjoying every minute of what I'm doing. But then again, I am staying at home and doing all of my work at home right now, as many people are, not only here in the US, but around the world. And so I'm not yet on the road to the Dakotas, but when that happens, just the travel itself will take up a significant amount of time. But I'm really excited about the possibilities, and am delighted to work with so many wonderful people, so many gifted people.
Awesome. I was gonna, in taking on the Dakotas, whenever you do travel up there, I can't remember if it's North or South Dakota, there's a place called the Corn Palace. You should totally check that out.
When I was a kid, I don't know, maybe junior high, our family, I grew up in Eastern Pennsylvania. We took our first trip out west, and we went through the Dakotas, and one of the things I do remember about that trip is the Corn Palace. So I'm looking forward to having a chance maybe to take my grandchildren there this summer if things get better with COVID.
Absolutely. So you brought up you have a hard time saying no, and you feel called to ministry. You've been in a leadership role for a while. You've been in ministry for a while. How do you discern between what is truly a calling from God and what's just somebody else hoping to pawn off more work on somebody that's a go-getter?
Well, I think one of the greatest challenges of being a leader is knowing what is yours to do and what is not yours to do. Because clearly we can't do everything that is asked of us. Although I confess that I try, but I often fall short. And so it takes great wisdom and discernment to be able to say, thank you for asking, but I really don't think that I can do this. Or what I do is I just say, does this fit in with my call? Does this fit in with the gifts and graces that I have? Is this essential for me to do, or can somebody else do it? So every day I'm asking myself those questions when I wake up in the morning and saying, what is mine to do? What is most important for my attention today? And what can somebody else do, or what maybe doesn't need to be done at all?
Absolutely. So I got to ask you, we touched base. We're not going to dive into the specifics, but there is a lot going on in the United Methodist Church globally right now. Obviously, there's a lot of discussions, infighting, polarization, however anybody within the church wants to word it. What has it been like for you as the bishop of the Iowa Annual Conference, now the Dakotas, in the midst of not just a polarizing time within the church, but also our national politics, and then just on top of all of that, a freaking pandemic? Like, what has that been like for you going, all right, I guess today is the day I gotta add another thing. What's that been like for you?
Well, as you know, this is right now, this is the year anniversary of really the beginning of COVID restrictions. And I remember very clearly the letter that I had to send out to the conference, just saying that things are not going to be the same for right now. And I had no clue that a year later we would still be in the midst of this. Although I have to say that the vaccine is a blessing for us, and I think the vaccine will enable us to get back to our what we like to think of as normal. Although I don't think there is any normal anymore. So what I've tried to do over this last year is to help lead our leaders, to lead our conference staff and our clergy in their local churches to figure out a safe way in which they can continue to worship and that they can continue to do vital ministry in their communities in the midst of COVID-19. We have a wonderful staff. Lynette Plambeck, our director of clergy excellence, puts out regular updates for our clergy to saying this is where COVID is right now. These are the things that that we think you can do now, or these are the things that you need to hold off on. We really understand that our clergy are under enormous stress because, like me, I'm having to reinvent many of the things that I've done in the past, and our clergy especially now have to reinvent how they do worship. How do we do church? So innovation is critical right now, and I need to say that I am so impressed and grateful for our clergy in the Iowa Annual Conference and the way in which they are, they're getting through this crisis in very creative ways, in thinking up new ministries, new ways to worship. So my primary concern is now how to care for the clergy and make sure that they don't burn out. That is a critical thing because sometimes our congregation members aren't in the same place as clergy. And so there's, they're butting heads as to, okay, can we be back in worship? Can we be sitting in the pews, or do we need to be safe? And my best advice has always been for clergy to do the safest thing. Don't go out on a limb. Don't take risks, because human lives are at stake. And so that has been really, really hard because we all want to be together. We want to hug each other. We want to pass the peace. We want to sing hymns. And now we can't do all of that, but we're hoping for the day when we can get back to church, and it'll be a new normal. And I think we're on the way.
Absolutely. I look forward to getting back to the coffee bar myself. Coffee and Methodists just go together so well. I'm surprised we don't own our own chain of coffee stores, to be honest. Obviously, there's a lot of difficulties in dealing with the last year and with being apart. You kind of touched on some of those. Is there any positives that you found in this last year, even though we've been apart? Has there been any silver linings that you yourself have noticed going through this?
Well, I think one thing that I'm noticing is that we are not as harsh with one another as we have been, because most everyone knows that United Methodists are in the midst of discernment around the future of the United Methodist Church and human sexuality in particular. And we've had some pretty bitter battles with different parts of the church having different viewpoints. And I think if there is any silver lining in our last year with COVID, it's that we've been able to set aside some of our differences and say, look, we are all in this boat together now. There is something that is more important right now than us fighting about what our church is going to look like around human sexuality. We need to be connected to one another. We need to keep our focus on making sure that our pastor friend down the road or this lay person who's living alone, we need to make sure everybody's cared for. And if we keep that as our primary focus, I think eventually our differences around human sexuality are going to take care of themselves. As you know, General Conference has been postponed again. And now it's 2022. So there are some things that we cannot make decisions about. We still can't. And so I would hope that we can all use this time as a gift to recover our relationships with one another, and to be able to focus on things that we can do together, the ways in which we can make a difference, the things that we hold in common, we need to celebrate rather than the things that are dividing us. And so I believe that this really is going to be a positive thing for us, but we have to make the choice because the reality is there's nothing we can do about changing the COVID trajectory other than our own behavior, which is very important. But what we can do is to resolve to keep connected with our brothers and sisters in the United Methodist Church and in our communities. And that's going to be more important probably than anything else right now. We need to make sure everyone is cared for, that we're connected in our congregations, and make sure everybody in our congregations and our neighborhoods know that they are cared for.
Absolutely. And there is so much that we have in common. I for one, am grateful that you wore a hot pink shirt for our interview tonight. I mentioned, to Diane, because back in 2017, I had the joy of graduating from School for Lay Ministry. And I thought, I'm going to wear hot pink. I'm going to be all snazzy up. And lo and behold, you had just full on head to toe hot pink that day. And I loved that we had a moment on stage where we acknowledged that we both just dressed way better than everybody else at the entire convention. So very appreciative to see you wearing pink. I want to divert away now from official business. I know that you're very busy with all of that. I'm sure that takes a lot of your time. And I want to ask you about not Bishop Laurie Haller, but just Laurie Haller, disciple of Christ, daughter of Christ, sister in Christ. What do you do for just yourself, apart from all your official duties, to maintain your personal relationship with God?
Oh, thank you. It's a wonderful question. I would start off by saying, or relating to you, my personal mission statement, because I think that's important for me to keep grounded in everything that I do. My mission is to love God and allow God to use me to make a positive difference in the world. I vow to take care of myself, reach out to those I am called to serve, and work to make a positive difference in the world. So that's my mission statement that I recite every morning when I get up, along with some other things that I do. One of those other things is John Wesley's covenant prayer that I recite every morning. So the most important thing for me to stay healthy has always been being physically active. Ever since I was a little girl, I was involved in sports, and during the time when I grew up, there were a lot of things that girls weren't allowed to do, but I did whatever I could, and I played football, touch football in the fields with the boys, and rode bikes and did all that kind of stuff, and so I had a wonderful childhood, and I've always been. I use the term, it's a Pennsylvania Dutch term, because I'm come from Pennsylvania Dutch stock, originally from Germany and then in Eastern Pennsylvania. And my grandmother would always say that I was rutschy. Now the word rutschy in Pennsylvania Dutch means that you can't sit still. Always got to be doing something. And that's kind of the way I'm at, although I've mellowed a little bit over the years, but I always want to be active. I played all the sports that I was able to, that were available for girls at the time, particularly field hockey and basketball and softball. And now for me, my stress relief is running. It has been for 40 years. And so I've done all kinds of races over the years. I also have a racing bike. And so I've done triathlons and just riding the wonderful trails that we have here in Iowa. And I also swim. But being in Iowa, there's not a whole lot of places to swim outside. I've discovered a few places, but there's also the gym that I can go to as well. So for me, the stress relief and taking care of myself is being physically active.
Absolutely. So if things ever get really bad between the annual conferences in the United States and they get super competitive, we've got somebody really good in charge that can really compete with everybody else then, right? Let's settle this out on the field.
I just done a lot of crazy races and stuff over the Ironman triathlons and extreme trail runs and stuff that everybody thinks I'm crazy. So my grandkids have taken to calling me crazy grandma because I'm those are the things that feed me, and that when they're really hard and it takes a lot of energy and time to train, that's what energizes me, because my job is really hard. And so when I have other things in my life, my personal life around sports that are really hard, then I don't feel as stressed as I would otherwise.
Absolutely. So when are we going to get you on Ninja Warrior? I would love to see that. That's great. So you're probably in just 10 times better shape than I am. I don't, I have a 2-year-old son that I chase around, and that's usually enough, for me. Getting into some more fun questions. What is a misconception that people have about you when they meet you and they find out that you are a bishop and you are part of leadership within organized religion?
Well, I think for a lot of people who aren't, they're not religious, or they are, but they belong to maybe perhaps more conservative churches where women aren't allowed to be in leadership positions. There's just like a pause and kind of like you do what? And it's wonderful for me just to say, I'm blessed to be able to be part of a church where women are permitted to be involved in all levels of the denomination, especially in leadership. And it's fun to get into those kind of conversations. And I try to steer away from the conversations when we get into the battle of, okay, are women allowed to preach? Are women allowed to do this, that, and the other? Because there's usually not a good ending to that conversation, because everybody has their own entrenched positions. I think another misconception maybe that some folks have when I say that I'm a bishop is that they say, you don't look like a bishop. And I don't know what a bishop looks like. So people maybe have the misconception that we look like the Pope, and we wear this crazy hat, and but I'm just a regular person. I'm a regular person that for some reason unknown to me, I was called to this position for this time in the life of the United Methodist Church. I was very happy being a local church pastor, a district superintendent, serving in various churches, and so it's a real honor for me to be in this role. I take it very seriously, and I think that I am blessed because I work with incredibly gifted people who are far better than me. And so that's one of my rules of thumb for ministry, is surround yourself with people who are much more gifted than you are.
Absolutely. When I talk to pastors and you ask them how they change behavior when they learn you're a pastor, and I feel like most every pastor will say, oh, they immediately stop swearing when they find out. Do you find that people alter their behavior more than when they found out you were a pastor versus now when they find out you're a bishop? Do people change how they behave around you?
Well, sometimes it just depends on who it is. I mean, people who have been lifelong friends of mine or colleagues of mine for years and years, they know who I am. They know that I'm not any different than anybody else. I just happen to be called to this role for this time. I'm not any more holy. I'm not any more gifted. But that the call is what brought me to this place. And I believe that God gives me the energy and the ability to do this work because I'm surrounded by wonderfully gifted people. And so I don't see myself as any different than anybody else. I'm called, and when I'm called, I do what God asked me to do. And when I was elected to be a bishop, I sensed that was that call meant that my life was going to change dramatically. And it has in many ways, but in other ways it hasn't, because I've tried really hard to carve out time to be with my family and to do the things that I love to do, the hobbies that I have.
Absolutely. A lot of clergy that I'm really close friends with, it seems like one of their favorite things to do, and I don't think it's unique to the Methodist faith, but sometimes it feels like it's unique to Methodist faith, is a lot of clergy I'm friends with love to share all of the craft beers that they drink, and they love to share their favorite beverages. Do you have a favorite beer or a favorite beverage that you like to drink when you're just trying to unwind and enjoy your downtime?
So here's something else that's important to know about me. I grew up as a Mennonite, and Mennonites don't drink. Now maybe they do now, but part of my Mennonite upbringing, it was part of that, and also part of just who I am, is that I've never had any alcohol in my life, except for a little bit when I went to a Lutheran college, where I got my undergraduate degree, and of course they use wine there, and that was my first taste of wine. But I made a commitment, many years ago, that I am not going to drink alcohol, and that's my witness to others. Not and it doesn't mean that I denigrate anybody else who chooses to use alcohol. I understand that, but I also have seen the devastation of families when alcoholism takes over.
Absolutely. See, I'm not mad that you don't drink. It just means that there's less people competing with me when I go to the wine and spirits section. So, favorite non-alcoholic drink then? There's got to be some drink or some sort of treat that, at the end of a long day, we're like, that's got my name on it.
All right, John. And this is the truth. It's milk. I drink milk for supper. I drink milk in the evening. The protein is helpful for me and for my bones, and other than that, I just drink water and pretty much milk and sometimes some orange juice, and that's all.
All right, discipline. I like it. I like it. What is something that people within our faith don't know about Bishop Laurie Holler? What's something that, is something unique about you that you don't mind sharing that just doesn't come up in conversation a lot?
I think one of the things that we've already talked about is my love for sports, and my love for extreme sports, and my desire to challenge myself continually. I'm a lifelong learner, and so folks don't know a lot about that. Another thing that maybe people don't know too much about, because I have to be different in public sometimes than I am in private, but I am an extreme introvert. I love to be by myself. It's really hard for me to be in groups of large groups of people. I can do it. I've learned to do it because I've been a pastor and a bishop for 45 years or however long it is. So I can do the extroverting, but I can't wait to get home and be quiet.
Absolutely.
I like silence. I like quiet, and maybe that's why I like running so much, because it's the solitary nature of running.
So when you run, is it just the sounds of nature? Is there music going?
I also made it, and this is, I'm sure, crazy to many folks. I love music. I was a music major in college. I have a master's degree in music. I love music, but I do not run with music or anything else. I don't have headphones, earphones. I want to hear and experience and be aware of everything that's going on around me. Not so much. I mean, a little part of that is safety, but the bulk of it is that's my alone time. That's how I decompress. Is just being outside, whether it's going for a run or getting out the bike or going for a walk. I do not use any music, although I love music dearly.
So that's a good question. When you do have music on around the house, what's on your go-to playlist?
Um, I listen to classical music, so I don't, you know, I don't like rock music or I like jazz, but I don't usually have music on because I like silence. But I love Gary, my husband Gary and I love to go to the Des Moines Symphony. We love to go to other concerts. We both like music a lot.
That's awesome. So I'll leave us with this last question. We're looking, we're already in March, obviously, but there's still 9 months left of this new year. And as we look forward to everything that this year has in store for us, with vaccines rolling out, with a return to our new normal, with the future of the UMC and the balance, what is the best advice that you can give for not just United Methodists, but all of our brothers and sisters in Christ? What would you love to say to them as we embark on whatever the future has in store?
I guess I would say I hope that all of us can embody the grace of Jesus Christ by everything that we do. If only we would live as Christ lived, uh, to to uh, to give of ourselves, as we know Jesus even gave his life for us, but that the kind of sacrificial, holy living that sometimes means that we end up being outliers because everyone else is busy. They're doing all this stuff, and but it's not always meaningful. Um, I wish that we could all take the time to step back uh, and just reflect on who we are, and to be quiet and to listen to the still small voice of God, who says, come to me, all you who are weary and heavy laden, and I will give you rest. That's what Jesus says to us. And I hope that we can be the kind of disciples of Christ that can be around our friends and our neighbors and our professional colleagues and people that we just meet on the way, and that they would see in us Jesus. They would see the love of Jesus in us, and that we could embody and model that love even when we're around people who don't believe the way we do. And so that's my hope for the United Methodist Church as well, that we can, in the midst of our struggles, and I know how hard it is for General Conference to be postponed yet one more time, because we all want to move forward. We all want to have some kind of resolution around homosexuality and what we're going to do about that in the United Methodist Church. But the reality is that God is calling you and me every day to look our brothers and sisters in the eye. Now, and I would like to say give them a hug, because I'm a hugger. I'm a real hugger, and I desperately miss giving hugs to other people. I desperately miss that. But it doesn't mean that we can't have those kind of relationships with others, and that we can't affirm where people are at, and that if we're not on the same page, we can still be friends. We can still be sharing Christ's love. We can still be in mission together. And I've said this for a number of years now, that whatever happens in the United Methodist Church, my hope and prayer is that we can model grace and love, so that our world will see that yes, they're not formally together, but they still love each other. They still respect each other. And they still want to be in mission together. They still want to share things together, even though they're not formally together. That's my deepest prayer, because I love my friends and colleagues in the United Methodist Church, and we don't all agree. And that's okay. We've gotten to the point where we've tried, and it looks like, it's not going to work for us to stay together, but we can still be brothers and sisters in Christ. And so that is our witness to the world, that in the midst of whatever's going to take place, whatever we're going to look like in 2 years, that we still love each other, and we're still brothers and sisters in Christ, and we still can find ways to work together to make a difference in the world. That's my hope. That's my dream. And I commit myself to working for that kind of future for the people who are called Methodists.
Absolutely. Bishop Laurie, I can't think of a better place to end it. I just want to thank you so much for agreeing to do this. It was a delight to have you on the talk show, to get to talk to you, to hear your witness, hear your words, and I'm just so excited to share your words with anybody and everybody that'll tune in and listen to this. So thank you so much for being with us tonight and sharing your words.
And thank you, John. Keep wearing pink.
Will do. I'll wear it every day just for you.
Thank
All
you.
right.
God bless you.
God bless you.